Yeah, we rolling.
Alright, so the core of the show is our playback system that has all of our tracks. So tracks are separated by music, background vocals, bass, like sub, kind of low material, and drums. All of that is running off this redundant system. So I have one computer A that is kind of the main computer that if anything goes wrong, it switches to B. B is also running an auto-tune rig, so I can do vocal effects and kind of have a little bit extra help for after I've run around the stage, I'm out of breath. Helps me stay in tune a little bit. This is our MPK Mini that we've programmed to basically start the show and do a couple other things. We're using this program called Setlist, where we put markers in Ableton to have each song, and then we can trigger each song, but usually we just start at the beginning and go all the way through. So we have controls here, up and down. To control, I can turn certain perf groups on and off. Basically, there are parts that we're performing live that we take out of the backing tracks, and if something goes wrong, I can turn them on here. Same with Nick's stuff, I can turn his on there. All the tracks you hear come from here. They go to front of house. I have them in my ears, Nick has them in his ears. We programmed some MIDI, so for my auto-tune changing key and retune speed, we programmed that with the iConnectivity Neo, and that's routed to B computer to control all of that. And so let me take you over to my riser. I'm using a wireless microphone for all of my singing and talking. Over there is our wireless receiver, and I'm taking it from the Apollo in that playback rack to the wireless and then to here. So aside from playback and Nick's world, we got a couple things. This is the Akai MPC Live. I love this thing because it's standalone. It's a rechargeable battery, so I can just charge it and unplug it if I need to, and just kind of keep it with me on the go. Basically every song, if you want to come check it out, every song, or almost every song, has a patch. So there's another life for you. These are the vocal patches that you would hear if the front of house was on. Okay, so for example, I have these one-shot samples. I can play them at any time during the set. They're not like over MIDI, they're just on their own outs. So I just listen to the click and make sure I'm on time with it. And again, we have these for tons of tracks. Then on here, I have my keyboard sounds. Pianos, pads. Like bell sounds. I think this is still a piano. The Akai MPC Key 61, and it has a bunch of built-in sounds that you can totally control like every parameter of and make them your own. Usually people use this in the studio, but I wanted to bring it on tour because it's just totally like a standalone workstation. I don't actually need a computer at all to use it or program it, and it's nice with all the computer stuff going on for me to feel free and kind of unrestricted. And the last thing we have that is connected to playback is the APC 40 Mark II. A lot of people use this to trigger samples, but what we're doing with it, basically I have 3 or 4 functions. I have a low cut, so if I want to take the lows out of something and bring them back in dramatically, I have that here. Opposite, I have a high cut, so I can do filter sweeps, filter down to talk, or filter down a section if I want to accentuate something. Then I have a beat repeat that's routed only to the drum tracks. So when you click the button, the drum tracks will kind of like stutter or like remix themselves. If you're familiar with Ableton, you know the beat repeat function. And the last one is I have a little vocal reverb right here. So if I want to just totally like drench my voice for a dramatic moment, I can pull this up and then down. So that is all my stuff. It's like pretty live. There's still a lot of playback, but this is how we're doing it. This is how we're rolling for right now.
doing here?
Working on the visuals.
What are the visuals?
Couple of things. We have some stuff like the ocean and such. The show starts off circles, and then I take the mats off, and the mats turn into diamonds. We have stuff that's programmed, but there's also a number of moments in the show where I'm using this video synth called Lumen, and I have that mapped to this MIDI controller here. So, for instance, if you look at the panels, I can do everything. I can change the frequency, I can change like what is going on as far as like the LFOs go for this synth. The video synth is basically like Serum, but instead of it putting out audio, it puts out video. And I can also dupe everything on every panel using a program called, or a plugin for Resolute called Stage Flow, or I can have all of the panels be the one output. So, you know, there's different moments in the show when I'm not necessarily playing something that I really get to like hone in and focus on these visuals. So we have our colors that we stick to. We stick to the Shallou blue for this one and white, but as far as what goes on the actual screens with the occasional kind of moment that we've planned that's programmed with Playback, other than that, it's literally different every night. That's the visual stuff. Come on over to the processor. Let me show you what I'm working on. So I've got two Novastar VX 1000s here that I'm running. We have a main one and a backup. It's very odd to be running your LED processors right next to the person on the stage, but since I'm doing all of it, I need that right here. And then laptop here that's running Resolute. And we have all these different program parts of the show that come up at certain times and all that stuff, and then these kind of clips that I can hit on the fly, in addition to stuff like this that I can do, that I have full control over during the show. So again, everything we did was like every show looks different. So everyone in every city is getting a completely unique experience, with the exception of the couple of like super important moments that really need to be bang on. But it allows us to be flexible. And as far as the video stuff goes, between the video synth, Resolute, and the processor, that's it. I have my computer synced up over Cat5. MIDI information that comes out of Ableton that I've programmed sends MIDI commands to Resolute. It's a combination of programmed and on-the-fly stuff, which is cool. It's kind of like this interesting dance for me, between playing music and then I have to switch into like video mode and jump over and start thinking about like how it looks for the show and then jump back. As far as audio goes, I'm running everything off of this Mac Mini. I'm running Ableton Live, obviously. We'll talk about how we clock those computers in a second because it's pretty hot. I'm using this just for like an input. Hate me for using a Scarlett, if you will, but anyway. We've got a cool like AC system here that keeps everything super cold, because when we did Red Rocks, I had a couple of CPU issues that were not fun. So we got this like cooling system, which is super sick. And then a handy dandy drawer that I can keep my goodies in. DJM 450. I have one channel that is all of my live piano stuff, and my vocoder and my pads. Basically everything that's coming from my computer goes into this channel, and then everything that's analog goes into this channel. We made the decision to incorporate analog synths, and we also incorporate, like I have a couple of Serum patches that I play throughout. I've always wanted to tour with analog gear. This honestly just makes things more complicated for no reason, but I enjoy the challenge. Working with analog gear on the road, especially in places of like varying climates and all that kind of stuff, throws stuff out of tune. So sometimes in the middle of the show, I'm straight up like tuning this stuff. I could get a tuning pedal, but that would be no fun, right? So I just do it by ear. For the first few shows, a couple of oopsies, but we got it working out really well, and I tune everything before the show, and it's good. As far as the analog gear goes, real quick, we have a Behringer Model D, and we have a Behringer Pro 1, and then I have it kind of mounted upward, and I have a little Behringer mixer in here that I use for delay and just the channel mixing. A lot of people hate on Behringer. I think Behringer is fine for this application, especially for like live shows. They're pretty durable, and if they do break, they're pretty affordable to swap out. So I mean, there's really no, this gets super audio nerdy, but there's really no low end that matches the low end from a Moog. Every venue we go into, the audio guys are always like, oh dude, that Moog sounds so nuts. There's something more live about using analog instruments than programmed VSTs and stuff. Also, the other nerdy side is DSP stuff. A lot of the reason we had some latency issues because we were doing round-trip DSP, so MIDI was sending into this analog stuff, and then the output was going into the Scarlett, which was going into the set, and like it was latency all over the place, as opposed to just having these analog synths. The Behringers receive MIDI messages, and they spit the audio straight through this channel to the house. Don't have to worry about any latency there. And then as far as the sub, we really couldn't afford to have latency on any sort of like bass stuff. So having this straight piped through the mixer here and through this allows me to play with the sub, which is like a part of dance music that not a lot of people change live. Playing live sub adds, there's different nights where there's different feelings, different inflections, different everything, and then it's all accompanied by like this Moog, and it looks sick. And then this is just a MIDI keyboard, sample pad, drum pad thing that I use to trigger samples in Ableton. That's it. The only last thing is, I was having a problem. The Ableton Live has a function called link. We were having a problem where we would link over our network, but our computers would not sync. They would always be off by like maybe half a second, even if I connected them directly into each other with Cat5. So I had the clever idea of unsyncing the computers and running them independently, almost like two DJ decks. So when I start the show, you know, like when you're on a plane, you're watching a movie with like your significant other, and you hit the play button at the same time as the movie that they're watching. You know what I'm talking about? I basically do that to start the set. And then I can cue, because of how amazing our engineer Dawson is, in my right channel in my ear, I have the entire mix of the show, and in my left channel, I have just the cues on my mixer. So, after I start the show, I can keep the volumes down, and I can cue my Ableton, and I can use the metronome to match, just by nudging the tempo up and down by 1 BPM. I can match my Ableton to our playback system. And there's actually a couple of times throughout the night where sometimes for some reason our computers don't stay perfectly synced, but just like you would nudge it on a CDJ, I can nudge my Ableton silently and make sure that we're always in sync. Also, if we have a problem on any of the computers, which has happened, when you're over Ableton Link, starting and stopping any one computer start and stops another one. So this is cool having them independent, because at any point in the show, if I needed to jump to another song or something, I could jump right there, literally hit play as if I was DJing, nudge the tempo, get it synced up, and then I'm right back on. So, this guy. Thanks, Dave. There you go, Shallou Live 2023 In Touch Tour. Woo!